Welcome back to What's Up Ward, the podcast. My name is Roy Ward. I'm going to be your tour guide on this important episode. I suggest everybody get in, sit down, and hold on tight because it's about to go down. First of all, I'd send a shout out to my co-host, Tiki the Talker. What's happening with you?
Nothing much for it. Just trying to keep my head above water and my feet on the ground. What
That's
about
what's
you?
up. That's what's up. Well, I'm slowly but surely dying. Thank you for asking me, though. Now, I'm going to send a shout out to our sponsor. What you got on that? What can you tell me about the
Oh,
sponsor?
Imiru. Yes, Imiru Skincare. They got everything you need for your skincare needs, organic, vegan, plant-based skincare line. Yeah, straighten you up there, get your skin all smooth, like a baby's
Mhm.
bum, but good for both
Okay.
sexes, teens, adults, all age ranges. And it's making its mark in the clean beauty world. So check them out, www.emiru, Emiru, make sure I can spell Emiru skincare.com.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Our motto on this podcast is everybody has a story to tell, but we just want to know what's yours. With that being said, our in studio guest today certainly fits this criteria because not only has this brother been enlightening the world with important issues and also being a real man, he has an extraordinary background that should have made you. RJ, welcome to the What's Up Reward Show. How you doing, brother?
Oh man, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Oh, it's
Absolutely.
great to have you. Great to have you. So enlighten us, RJ. Please tell us in your own words, who is RJ?
Wow. Um, RJ is a man who basically had a very rough upbringing. The kind of
Mm,
person that when people see you, they automatically would think that your life was nothing like what you tell them, which was the reason why I started my motivational speaking company because to be who I am today, there were a lot of trials and tribulations, but
Mm.
RJ is a survivor. He's a helper. He's a friend. Somebody who finds more joy in helping to push a car off the side of the road than I could ever find in money.
mm.
That's really, in a nutshell, who I am.
All right. So we're going to get into all those topics and more because so many places I can start with this, but I kind of like to go back to the childhood and then just work my way forward. So um, tell us, well, before I get to that, where are you currently living in now? What part of the world are you living in?
I'm in Noblesville, Indiana.
Noblesville? Okay, yeah. I like that place. My sister actually lives out there. Very nice place. Not quite like, like Indiana, it's like kind of like for those who's listening who's not in Indiana, it's like a suburb of Indianapolis, if you
Yes.
yeah.
That's just what I
Only
was
the
about
rich
to
people live
ask.
out there. Only the rich people, yeah.
I'm
All right.
Ohioan, so I didn't know I was going to ask that.
All right. So going back to your childhood, what was your childhood like? Did you grow up in a two-parent household?
No, actually, I grew up in a single parent household. My mom had me when she was 15.
That's
15.
young.
Okay. Did you break that cycle? Do you have any kids?
Myself, yes, I do. I have a 29-year-old daughter. I have a 9-year-old adopted baby girl, and I have a 2-year-old son.
Oh, okay. You starting over, man.
Yeah, gotta keep
So
you.
yeah, no doubt. Uh, so let's go back to that growing. What was it like growing up as a child? Did you have any brothers and sisters? Were you a single child? Were you bad? What was it like?
Um, that's a good question. I was actually the oldest of three. My mom had my brother 8 years after she had me. Then she had my sister 8 years after she had him. So it was three
Mhm.
of us in total. And my sister never lived with us. It was my brother and I up to I was on and off in the home. And at 17 years old, my brother got taken away and went in foster care.
Mhm.
Okay. So what was it like growing up in that environment then?
It was rough. I can't lie. The first time I was ever kicked out of a home, I was three. I remember
Whoa.
like it was yesterday. Yeah, I was three.
A
Okay.
foster home?
No,
You were
my
kicked out
my
of a
um,
father?
my mother's home.
Oh, your mother's home. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
So many first question, where were you living at during this time?
We were living in. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, so we were living in Cleveland, and she was living with my great grandmother, and that's where we were.
And she kicked you. Why did she kick you out? What did you do at three?
Just
Mm.
told me I knew too much. Was a smart kid and could repeat conversations and knew too much. And so one time, I guess I may have said something that she didn't want me to say, and she told me, you know too much, and she put me on my winter hat and coat and gloves, and she opened up the front door and she kicked me out. She put me outside, and so I walked across town to my grandmother's house by myself at 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So did you end up going back home, or was that a temporary situation?
It was just a temporary thing. Everybody, every time something would happen, would send you back home. It was, in the 70s. And so you go back home and you go through some rough times. I mean, I was abused for 11 years of my
Oh,
life
wow.
growing up. Um, I mean, I can tell you the second time I got kicked out of the home, I was 5. I was left at school at the age of 5, and I walked across town to my grandmother's house. It's just, I've always been good with directions. Like I said, I had to grow up
Good
extremely
thing.
fast. I'm sorry.
I said it's a good thing you were good with directions.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was interesting. I grew up in the drug game. I was 5 years old in a car shootout. I was 3 in
Dang.
my first drug raid. I was handling drug deals and packages at age 5. I learned how to drive by the time I was 7. I mean, I could tell you a lot. Yeah.
Mm, 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 mm.
Man, so okay, so somebody in your family was obviously in the game, so they
Yeah,
got you in early.
yeah, deep in the game.
Okay, so is that why you kind of had got kicked out and stuff because you was growing up too fast? And
No, I mean, with that being the case, I was right where they wanted me to be. You're young enough to handle packages. You knew how to count money. It would be take this package to that man, get me what I need, and bring me back my money. No,
Mhm.
I got kicked out because of the fact that my mom would be doing certain things, and she was young, and I would know because I paid attention, and it would just be you're talking too much. I mean, you're
I
telling
see.
stuff that shouldn't be told.
Hmm.
And this was all
Wow.
family members, I'm assuming, that were involved right there in your home with the drugs and
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How did you get out the game?
Uh, I I ran into a lot of trouble. My mom told me the words that my mom put in my head when I was really young was that I'm not anything and I won't ever grow up to be anybody. So
Mm.
that was ingrained in me at a really young age. And I remember there was a time when I went to spend a night at my father's house, and my mom and my dad, they argued because my dad was dropping me off, and my mom said, well, don't bring him here. And then my father said, well, what do you want me to do with him? And so I was 11 at that point. And what finally got me out of it was I ran away from home. I was in trouble. My life was going downhill. I was a good kid in school, but I didn't have a home life. So it would be one of those things where you had to be hyper vigilant. I would know that at 2 o'clock in the morning, my mom or her boyfriend was going to wake me up, beat the crap out of me, and put me back to bed. Tell me hide the bruises. Don't tell anybody what happened. So that was my life up to 11, and then I finally just ran away from home. Ran away from home, no shirt, no socks, no shoes. My mom told me she was going to call the police. I'm looking for the cops, and I got to my aunt's house. I walked all the way across town. I got over to my aunt's house, knocked on her door. She answered the door. She called me by my name, and then I blacked out. I woke up. I was in the hospital where I passed out, and so that was my transition out of my mother's home. But it didn't really get any better from there.
Oh, wow. So you was what, 11, 12 at this time, you said?
Yeah.
So did you go back home again, or was this the start of you just being on your own?
No, that was the start of bouncing from place to place. At that particular point, I stayed at my aunt's house for the summer, and it was with her sons and my uncle. They lived in the suburbs in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and she was a nurse, and my uncle was a journalist, and they had these kids, and they lived this great life. And I remember just going to a store and her buying me some new shoes and
Mm,
making me feel loved. And I just remember getting to a point where I didn't want to leave. So I tried to like hide out. So I'm like, man, this is the best life ever. I don't know what it's like to have this kind of emotion. And it
Hmm.
came a time when I couldn't stay. And so they were like, well, you got to kind of pick where you want to go. And I was like, well, I'll go to my grandmother's house. And I went to live with my grandmother for a little bit. It got better for a little bit, but then the emotional abuse started. And
mm,
my friends would all ask me, why did she mess with you so bad? And I couldn't answer it. And then eventually, I wound up just on the streets. I would just bounce around from place to place and sleep on the streets. And yeah,
Mm. So was this your mother's mother who was
yes,
taking care of you? Okay.
yes.
Mm.
Yep, she was a good woman. I mean, she was going through some things, and I love my grandmother to death. But I mean, she did have a drinking issue, and it was something
Mm.
that it would there was nobody else to pick on, so I would be that person. And you're young, and so one day I just went off. I hollered at my grandmother, and I said, "I wish you would quit
Oh,
blanking with me." Yeah, and it caused a huge uproar. My grandfather jumped up, and my uncle
oh.
came downstairs, and he wanted to fight me. I'm a kid, and but I'm crying and everything. It was
Yeah.
terrible, man. But it was just the beginning of another transition.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm like 15, and I went to live with my mom for a little bit, and it just got really bad. So from 15 to 17, I was kind of bouncing back and forth. And then by the time I hit 17, I was full time back living with my mom. But that was a real short lived situation. I joined the army at 17 with my grandmother's consent because she was my legal guardian.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then after that, things went really, really, really bad. That's the year that my brother wound up having to go to foster care,
I was
behind a
wondering what
decision.
happened to, yeah, I was wondering what happened to the other two.
My sister never lived with us. She always lived with her
Right.
father. We all have different dads. And my
Okay.
sister's my sister's grandmother took care of her whole life.
Okay.
So
Okay.
she was never subjected to what we were. Um,
Security. Mm.
my brother, however, I protected him with my life. It was just my because of everything I experienced. I didn't want him to go through a fraction of what I went through. And I think I told you, Ward, and I back up and I digress. But when I was 10, that was the first time my mother tried to kill me. And I was
About to
asleep,
kill
and she
you.
put a yeah, she tried to kill me. She put we were asleep in the bed. She had already shot a 38 in the house at one point that went through all of the walls in the house, and it stopped in our bedroom by a closet door. But I was sleeping in the bed one night, and because I was real protective of my brother, I had him sleeping in the bed beside me.
Hmm.
And I felt something cold on my forehead, and I woke up, and it was my mom. She had a
Oh,
gun pressed to my head, and she pushed my head back against the pillow, and she's crying. And she told me, she said, "I can't take it anymore." She said, "So what I'm going to do
Oh,
is I'm
wow.
going to kill you, I'm going to kill your brother, and then I'm going to kill myself."
oh my
And I had to talk my
goodness.
mom out of killing us, and I did. And she put the gun in my hand, and she cried on my shoulder. I'm 10 at this time. But like I said, to bring you fast forward to where we were when I was 17, it never got any better. But I was transitioning out. I was on my way to
Hmm.
the military, and I'm coming home from a reserve meeting, and I could hear
Hmm.
this screaming from the house, and I knew it was my brother. And so I run to the house as fast as I can, and my brother's laid across a chair in the kitchen, and my mom was standing over him with a broken broom handle, and I knew she had hit him.
Mm.
And I snatch him up. I take him across the street to the neighbor's house. I lay him down. I say, "Put some ice on his back." I run back across the street. I'm nose to nose with my mom. I'm arguing with her. I'm hollering. I'm screaming. And I told her, I said, "I'll never let you do to him what was done to me." So the next
Hmm.
day, we slept on the couch at the neighbor's house. And the next day, I woke up, went with him to school, told the neighbor what happened. I said, "Hey, I got to tell his teacher." And I told his teacher, and I'm 17. I don't know what's going to happen, but the Child Protective Services came to the school,
Yeah.
and they were at lunch, and they took him away. And I tell this all the time when I have my speaking engagements. I remember my brother in the back of a red Corsica, and he's looking at me, this little kid. He's 10, and he's looking at me going down the road, and I'm just looking at him. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so I walked
Oh, that's
home.
heart-wrenching.
I walked home. When
Yeah.
I got to the house, and there were 6 police cars in front of my mother's house waiting for me.
Mm.
And when I turned the corner, my mom hollers, "There he is. He did this to me." And I look up in the window, and she had beat herself up.
Oh, man.
And the police had their guns drawn on me. They made me get down on the ground, and I got arrested. And I got arrested. And I'm down in the precinct, and the captain came in and sat down with me. And this man looks at me and he's like, okay, he says, I know you didn't do what your mom said you did. I had said nothing to this man, but he said that to me. And he said, but he says, how old are you? I said, I'm 17. He says, are you in school? I'm like, yes. He says, when do you graduate? I said, next year. He said, what are you doing when you graduate? I said, I'm going to the Army. He said, okay. He says, your mom doesn't mean you any good. I'm going to tell you straight. He said, if you were 18 years old, he said, I'd have to charge you. He said, so I'm going to have you escorted back to the house, go get your things, and just go wherever you can go. So I rode a bike across town and tried to live with my dad for a little bit, man. And I just wound up living on the streets. I was wearing the same clothes to school 3 days a week. And I was riding a bike across town to catch a school bus, and then catch a school bus across town to go to school, then get out of school, come back on the bus, get back on the bike, ride the bike back across town. And I did that again, wore the same clothes 3 days a week. And literally when I graduated from high school, I was living behind a school building when I graduated.
Man,
So
so what was you doing for
I'm
money?
curious.
Sorry.
I was just barely making it. I just would eat where I could, sleep where I could. I had a best friend who I would try to stay at his house at times. And, I can tell you that was one of the first times I actually knew what it was like to have a heartbreak. Through everything I had experienced with my family, it was like par for the course. It was just like normal. But what wasn't normal was I have a friend that I have known since I was 5. And so I'm 17 and I'm going through this real dark period. I'm sleep behind the school building. It starts to rain and it starts to flood where I'm sleeping. So I'm walking in the rain. It's pouring down. I'm soaked to the bone. I get to my best friend's house. I knock on his door. His sisters let me in. I go into the kitchen and his mom comes out, and I love him. I love him so much because they're like family. And she looks at me, and they call me Rob Jones. And she looks at me. She says, "No, Rob Jones." I say, "Is Mark here?" She says, "No, Rob Jones. Mark does not know your life. He does not need to be exposed to your life. You got to go." And I'm going to tell you, that was the first time in my entire life I felt heartbreak. I felt like I couldn't breathe because it felt like everything I knew, everybody that I loved or trusted or felt had my best interest at heart had been taken away. And it devastated me. And the one thing that changed that moment was his dad, William Belcher, got up and came into the kitchen and he said, "That's our son." He's like, "You don't ever kick Rob Jones out into the street. We've known him since he was 5." And he said, "Rob," he says, "go in there, take a bath." And he hugged me, and it just made all the difference in the world, all the difference in the world. Yeah.
What was your
So
question,
did the
Tiki? I'm
mother
sorry.
ever object again? Did she
She,
object, or she just like, okay, she just
she,
kind of, yeah, he does need
good
us.
question. She actually just listened to him, but the thing that
Yeah.
was funny was she looked at me and she said, "Rob Jones," she says, "I don't know what's going to happen in your life." She says, "But I got a feeling you're going to become somebody really special and somebody really important." She says, "You've been through so much and yet you're still here." She says, "You got an amazing story." And this is when I was 17. And she just said, "I just got a feeling you're going to be a really, like a pillar to
Yeah.
people." And she said that to me when I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah, she was
So,
just in a moment of panic, I think, for her own son and what he was,
Yeah,
and then probably come back to
yeah,
her senses once her husband said, "No, no, he's
yeah,
family too." So yeah,
right.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So your grandmother signed off for you to go to the service, you
She
said?
did. She did. She was my
Okay.
guardian. She
Okay. So how were your grades while you were in this transitional period of homelessness?
signed. They were terrible. Um,
Mm.
I was a triathlete in junior high. I mean, I played basketball, football, ran track, had a lot of talent. And but my grades when I got to high school, really they just plummeted. I didn't have any stability. So one of
Mhm.
my teachers noticed. They there was nothing they could do for me, but she noticed my grades and she was just like, she pulled me aside and she just said, I just can tell something is going on with you because you're super smart. And like in school, I'd pass all the tests.
Mhm.
So I get A's and B's, but I wasn't doing any homework. And they were like, "You're not doing any homework. Why are you not doing homework?" I said, and I just told them, I said, "I think homework is stupid."
Mhm.
I said, "I don't think I need it." I mean, and they're like, "Well, yeah, well, you're getting all these A's and B's in school. We think you're cheating." And I said, "I'm not cheating." I said, "I just know the word." Because even though I was in that period where things weren't great, they weren't buying the fact that I wasn't kind of doing something to get over. So they
Mhm.
weren't gonna, even though my grades should have been higher than they were, they gave me the level, which was a C.
Mm.
And I mean, they kind of left me there. But my one teacher, she was just like, "Look here, I'm gonna give you this extra work. I just need you to do this work." So I would just do it wherever I could. And I did some good assignments for her. She gave me her phone number and her address when I went to the Army. And she said, "Just keep in touch. I know you had a tough life. And I just want to be like some inspiration to you and things of that nature." But my grades
Yeah.
weren't great.
Okay. Well, before I ask you about the military, I wanted to know two things. One, did you have a girlfriend while you was in high school or during that time? Because it's kind of hard to do that. I didn't think we did that. And I
Good
asked the second
question.
one.
And the second question?
I asked the second one after that. Go ahead.
Okay. The answer to that is no. I
Okay.
wasn't a popular guy in school. I really wasn't. I didn't have the latest and the greatest fashion. I was a guy that really thought, I mean, I was a rapper at that point. I wanted to rap to try to get a better life. So back when Public Enemy was out and all that kind of stuff like that,
Yeah.
I started rapping and writing, and I could write. So I'm actually a internationally published poet.
Hmm.
But I started writing like crazy, and I told my best friend, because we would rap together. I said, "Man, this is my ticket. This is my way out." And I'm like, I don't want to rap forever. I said, I want to get it, use it as a means to get to a position to where I can actually be the guy that sits behind the desk and I find the talent and I sign the talent. And I was saying that at like 13. By the
Hmm.
time we were 15, even though I was going through what I was going through, we had built our first recording studio at 15. By the time I was 19, we had three recording
Wow.
studios in Cleveland. So,
Nice.
we did some work, but no girlfriend. I met a girl on a bus that was a senior, and we went to prom together. Because she was a senior at her high school and I was a senior at mine, and we both didn't have dates, so we kind of went to prom, but no girlfriend. No,
Okay. All right. My second question was, now how tall are you now?
I'm 6'6".
6'6". So how tall were you in high school?
6'1" to 6'3".
Okay, so you had that growth spurt. So you went on a basketball team?
In high school, I tried to play, but my grades weren't great, so
Oh
they wouldn't
yeah.
keep me. But I was talented. I remember I played football and basketball, went out for both,
Hmm.
and um, without having any real strong support system, you
Hmm.
don't really know how great you could be or how
Right.
talented you could be. So, what got me the reason why I didn't play basketball, I mean football, because we were in drill and they threw a bomb to me and I was fast, but I couldn't catch the ball with two hands. So I extended my left hand and I caught the ball with one hand. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, he caught it with one hand." And I thought the coach would be like, "Wow, great catch, coach." Looked at me and went ballistic on me, man, and it hurt my feelings so bad. I was like, "Oh my God, what did I do wrong?" And I kind of just was
Hmm.
like, maybe this isn't for me. So no, I didn't play basketball again until I got in the military.
Wow. So he said you wouldn't pull no Odell Beckham's.
Right, right.
Yeah. So wow. So that's I forgot about that they didn't let people play because of grades. That's kind of crazy because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what grades had to do with stopping you from getting to that next level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Um. All right. Let's talk about the service. Which branch did you decide was the right one for you when joining the
Um,
military?
Good question. I actually joined two. I joined the Army at 17. And this happened like I met this I guess I did have kind of a girlfriend. She was 2 years out of high school and I was dating her briefly. We had met for a couple of months, but I was at her house and she was like, "Well, my recruiter's coming over." And my ears perked up. I said, "Your recruiter?" She said, "Yeah, I'm going to the Army." I said, "You think I could go to the Army?" And she said, "I think so." So the recruiter came over and he sat down and I looked at him. I said, you think I could go to the Army? He said, of course you can go to the Army, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, you got to go take the ASVAB. And so I went and took the ASVAB, and I did really well on ASVAB. And he came back and said, well, you can go. And I stopped him. I said, wait a minute. I said, before I sign for anything, it's either going to be medical or law. I said, I'm not going in for anything else, either medical or law.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, are you squeamish? I said, no. He said, how would you like to become a surgical technician? I said, what is that? And so he showed me the paperwork on a surge tech and what they do. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And so sure enough, I signed up at 17 years old, and I signed up to go to surgical tech school. And I graduated from high school and went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, went to boot camp there. And there I ran a 454 mile so I could run. I broke a couple of records doing push-ups. I did 101 push-ups in 2 minutes and 104 sit-ups in 2 minutes.
Hey.
Oh, wow. I can do that.
I was a little man. I was 6'3", 175 pounds. I was just and full of energy. And, you know, and I was a platoon guide, and I just wanted to prove myself. And I'm just talking about this because it's important to me. And I hope maybe he's listening. Drill Sergeant Lemon was my drill sergeant, and he was the greatest inspiration ever to me outside of Mr. Belcher, who was my best friend's father. This man to me was what a man should look like. He was strong. He was confident. He walked with a certain, you know, just this. He had this aura about him that made you just want to follow him. So when he did push-ups, I did my push-ups right in front of him. I said, if he's going to do this many push-ups, I'm going to try to do them. Even if it kills me, I'm going to do this. I want him to see me and acknowledge that I'm right there with him. And I graduated from boot camp. I went to Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio, Texas, got lost. And then they finally put me in the right place. And they said, well, in order to be a surge tech, you got to go through 91 Bravo school, which was combat field medic school. You got to pass combat field medic school to be admitted to surgical tech school. And I passed that. And then I went to surge tech school, finished that, went to OJT, which was at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And I was the youngest surgical tech working at the hospital. I was 18 years old, helping to deliver children.
Oh, wow.
Wow. What all does that entail in that job? So did you like just kind of tell me like what does a surgical tech do?
Oh, good question. You scrub in for surgery cases. You make sure that the patient is prepped. You make sure that you have the proper instruments for the surgery that you're performing. In order to graduate from surgical tech school, we had to do a mock appendectomy, and we had to do it successfully. But you got to just make sure you're there, and the whole thing is you have to be preemptive. You got to know what the surgeon needs before he or she needs it. So if it's a scalpel, you got to have it ready to go. If it's a retractor, you got to have it ready to go. If it's gauze, you got to have it ready to go. If it's sutures, you got to have it ready to go. So it's almost like just a handout, like what you see on TV, scalpel, forceps,
That's what I was playing. Yeah.
retractor. And so you have to be really good with your job. You have to, you have to make sure once that's done, you got to clean the OR. You had to sterilize the instruments. You had to get the OR back to its original condition. So basically make sure everything is sterile, cleaned up, ready for the next cases to come in. You check your case loads, and you go to work, you scrub in the cases, you're doing everything from hernia to I've done so many different surgery cases: ear surgeries, nose, eyes, appendectomies. Yeah, you name it, I've been a part of it.
So possibly then they're like, RJ, can you pinch this this artery right here? Or do they have you clip the artery or something like that where they're sewing or whatever, you're actually in there?
Yeah, just like that.
Okay.
Yeah, just like that. Or a surgeon
right.
taking your hand and putting it underneath the cavity and saying, this is the heart.
Oh,
you did
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Sounds like you had to know as much as a doctor, because if you got to anticipate what he's needing proactively, I mean,
you do. You got to know what you're doing. We had to graduate from anatomy and physiology was a part of our coursework. We had to learn 300 instruments, and we took a 300 instrument test that we used in surgery with no multiple choice. I got a 98 out of 100 on that. You just had, you learned the different surgery positions and things of that nature. You really did learn. You learned a lot. and it was a really good job.
Wow. I was thinking about that. How did you go from being homeless and on the street to having that type of responsibility? But how did you know you could do it?
You know, I'll honestly tell you, even though I had been in that situation, I always knew I got to say I felt like I had a higher calling. It was
Mm,
just no matter what I had been through, I'd always been able to be there for other people. And I
mhm,
believed in myself. I really did. It's like
Mhm.
you know what you know. You know you're strong. You know if you can wake up in the morning and you can ride a bike across town to go to school, you have the wherewithal. You're putting forth the proper effort to make something out of nothing. And it's you just wish you had somebody there to breathe that life into you or that belief in you that could have made you that much stronger or better, younger, quicker. But
mhm.
I always knew that I was going to be somebody that would make an impact on people because through everything I had been through, I just feel like I was given the task of saying everything that you've been through is not for you to keep. And you're wrong if you
Mhm.
keep it to yourself. It's for you to help other people to understand that they can be better from it. So, I mean, I carried that with me my whole life.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you're from Cleveland because and you want to be a rapper. I'm just thinking if you just I think it's East 99th Street in Cleveland. I think it's a street up there like
Yeah,
that.
yep. Hmm.
What would
I used to
happen if
live off
you'd
East
ran
99.
into that's what I asked you. What would happen if you would ran into Bone Thug and Harmony?
Bone Thugs and
If
Harmony.
you
I mean, we ran into. I knew Levert. I mean, I knew Gerald and Sean Levert personally. Their drummer lived on
Wow.
my grandmother's street, so we literally would talk to Sean and Eddie all the time. I mean, Sean drove a black Trailblazer, Chevy
Hmm.
Trailblazer, and then Eddie drove a silver little small BMW, like 328i or something like that. But it was a little bitty small older car. But yeah, we knew them personally.
Wow. So you've seen people make it. So do you ever think that if you had your father in your life more or a nuclear family, that your life would have been, I mean, what could have happened? Who knows, you know?
Um, you know what? I try not to think about it like that. I'm grateful for what I have. I appreciate the relationship I was able to build with my father, which we had our I call it a come to Jesus moment. We had our
Mhm.
conversation, and I can't say that it would have been better. You know what I mean? I think
Okay.
that my parents did the best they could with what they had and with what they knew at that time. So I
Yeah.
can't look at them and say, you know what, if I'd had them, it'd have been better. Who can say? It probably would have been. It could have been worse. You
Hmm.
know?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
that's
was just thinking even maybe it's to your advantage, although that's not ideal for your parents not to support you. Maybe it's to your advantage because you learn to find what you need within inside yourself, pull out that motivation and everything from yourself, not rely on it from outside sources.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
maybe that was to your advantage.
That's how I feel.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you said you were in the army, you were the youngest surgical tech. Did you have life figured out at this point now, since you're traveling the world, obviously?
Nope. I was just as lost as the day is long. I was so busy trying to run from being in the hood and not wanting to transition back to what I knew that I didn't even look at the army as a job. I wound up wanting to go full time active duty, and the army was downsizing in 1992. So I wound up calling up the Navy, and the first the Navy told me no, we're not going to take you because you're
Hmm.
prior service. They called me a couple
Yeah.
of days later and said, yeah, sure, we'll take you. And they did, but they stripped all of the work I did a year prior. So I couldn't go in as a surgical tech. I went in as an undesignated airman. They took my rank. Literally took everything from me, and I had to start all over again. And that was a battle in itself. It was not good. It was
Yeah.
hard.
That's what I was telling Tiki. I said, that's kind of conflicting. Now, I'm surprised they let you in. So they made you earn that.
Yeah, it was
How
really
long?
tough.
How long did you stay in for both of them?
I stayed in the Navy. I was 2 years in the Army, and then I was 3 years in the Navy. I wound up getting injured while we were over in Saudi. I'm
Oh.
service connected. I'm a
Oh.
service connected veteran, but I want to get injured over in Saudi. I was too tall to be on board the ship in the first place. I mean, I was 6'6". I was really tall, and I was on board the aircraft carrier, the Nimitz. So if anybody's listening, you guys know that when you get to a certain height, you're standing below deck and you're standing with your shoulders basically touching the heating and cooling ducts in the hallway, and you can look, and it's like you're looking at all of the ductwork. And that was me. And we were on air. We were on the flight deck, and the admiral walked up to me and literally walked directly up to me and said, "How tall are you?" I said, "I'm 6'6". He says, "Aren't you too tall to be on the ship?" And I just looked at him. I'm like, "I think so, sir." And he walked off. But that was a very interesting time. Yeah.
Wow, man.
What,
So,
may I ask? Oh, I'm sorry, Ward. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Your question. I can wait on
No, I
that.
was curious. He said he sustained injuries over in Saudi. What do you mind me asking?
That's all I'm gonna
No,
ask.
it wasn't anything like I got shrapnel or anything like that. I was on board an aircraft carrier. We were under a chemical biological attack, under the threat. And so we were going to our secure areas. And as I was going down a ladder well, trying to get down to the bottom, I got to the bottom of ladder well, pow, there was this loud snap in my knee.
Ooh.
And my knee swelled up immediately. And it was like, oh my God. I knew it was a pain. I knew that it wasn't good from my medical background. And I went to sick call, and they guy looked at me. He gave me the drug of the military is Motrin. So they gave me some
That's it.
Motrin, an ice pack, and bed rest. That's what they gave me. And we got back, and I told the guy, I said, "Hey man, something's wrong with my knee." Sincerely, I said, "I gotta go to the doctor." And they said, "We don't think anything's wrong with you." I said, "I'm telling you, there's something major wrong with my knee." So I went to the hospital, and they said, "Well, we think you might have we think you may have an ACL."
what I
And
was
of course, he
thinking.
looked at me there, and I was like, I don't know, because there's all this fluid on the knee. And they wound up doing surgery. And when they did the surgery, they made me a 1/4 inch shorter on my left leg, which
Oh
threw my gait
wow.
off. And so my gait threw off my hips and threw off my back, and just everything is jacked up. So now herniated disc, knee problems, leg problems, and all kinds of stuff, man. Yeah.
So do
Well, I didn't
you
think
got a
you
shoe?
sports.
Yeah, I was like, got a shoe to support that?
More. Yeah.
Yeah, they have shoes to support it, but it doesn't help when you got all of this, the pains is just some days are better than others, especially, and you could tell, like, remember when your parents were older, people would say, "Ooh, baby, I think it's gonna snow because my bones hurt."
Feel it in there.
Yeah,
And,
that's
you look at me
true.
Yeah.
like, now I'm like, man, it's gonna snow because my bones hurt.
Yeah. Wow, we know it. I didn't think that was real, man.
Yeah, it's a
So
thing.
so going through those experiences, my medical background was kind of dealing with mental illnesses and depression and things. I'm curious as to know, did you have to ever deal with depression at all, facing the odds you're up against?
I dealt with depression when I hit 29, 28.
Hmm.
I hit a really bad time in my life because I had felt that I had done so much work, and I was really, really just dedicated to I mean, I love people so much, but I couldn't figure out what my calling was. So there was a time when I got into I sunk into a real deep depression. And I had and I'm hollering and screaming. I'm in a room, and I'm hollering at God. And I'm like, why did you not let my mother kill me when I was younger? Why did you not let her just end this? Because I don't understand what I'm here for. And so, yeah, there were times when I contemplated suicide because I didn't understand what my purpose was. And I felt like I'm really not a benefit. And I didn't feel like I would ever figure out what I was supposed to do or what my gifts were. And, and you're fighting not being a product of what your parents told you would be. It's one thing when you love on your kids and you tell them, you know what, you could be anything you want to be in this world if you just believe, and I got your back. But when your parents, the people who love you, tell you that you'll never amount to anything, that sinks into the subconscious and the file cabinets. Just when somebody says something negative to you, they just fly open, and all the reasons why you can't become that reason. So I'm hollering and I'm screaming. And then what made it clear to me and what pulled me off the ledge was the answer I got back. So I'm hollering and I'm screaming. I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't make it. I don't know why you didn't just get rid of me. Blah 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 blah. And it was, you've been doing what I wanted you to do the entire time. and I stopped. And I cannot make this up. And it was, what have I done? Because I don't know what it is that I've done. And then I got really quiet, and then it hit me, and it was like, man, I've been in foster homes, and while laying in the bed, I could hear a kid crying, and got up out of the bed that I was in and went and sat down beside the kid, let him cry on my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I've sat with homeless people and let them cry on my shoulder. I've been that guy that's had friends that were threatening to commit suicide, and I've been that shoulder. And it just seemed like what hit me was, no matter where people were in their life, or no matter where I was in my life, you always gave to somebody else. And it was like, that's your gift. Your gift is, you're somebody that's been through so much in this life that you have an overwhelming amount of energy and love and compassion to give to other people.
Yeah,
you can be empathetic to anybody. And so at that point, it just really, it made sense. And it was like, you know what? Let me try to start speaking to people. So I started a speaking company, and I got in, and the doors that were opening and the things that were happening were just fantastic at that point.
Around
So
what
you had
age
these-
were you when you started that company?
I was 29.
You were 29, right? Right when depression started. Okay.
Yep, I was 29.
All right.
I was 29 when I had that moment of clarity that hit me. So really, everything took off by the time I was 30.
Wow. So the depression propelled you to do something different.
Yes.
From the answer you got back from God. Wow. Okay, that's nice. So you still doing that motivational speaking and things?
I just recently got my LLC for my speaking company here. It was a company that I ran up in Washington State, and I had really great success with that. But it was during the economic downturn of 2008, when everything was crazy. I was doing really good speaking engagements. I was making good money, but I was helping a lot of people. And when the economy tanked, I lost everything. I'm talking about everything: repossessions, 40 garbage bags in the garage because you couldn't pay for the dumpster service. So I was like sneaking out in the middle of the night and dumping bags in apartment complex garbage cans. And
been there, done that.
It got that bad. I mean, but it was like, even when it was that bad, I was doing this work, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to pour this effort. And I couldn't get a contract to work with the federal government, even though I helped to reduce the welfare population in Tacoma, Washington by 95%.
Man, they didn't want to show no love to the brother.
It just wasn't going to happen. And then there was a lady at a college that tried to steal my program.
I can believe that.
Basically, she tried to take it from me.
You've been through a lot. And you mentioned a lot of places you live. Where have you lived at?
Oh my gosh. I've lived Washington State, Cleveland, Ohio, Atlanta, Georgia, Lumpkin, Georgia, Florence, Georgia, Texas, Arizona. Where else have I lived? Jeez. My God. Yeah. North Carolina, South Carolina, here, Indiana. I've lived in quite a few places, but I've been around the world with the military.
Where were you been outside the States?
Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, Bahrain, Dubai, Africa, Hawaii, just to name a few places. Caribbean. Yeah.
Dang. You've been everywhere. I think I've been to Kokomo. I went to Kokomo one time.
Kokomo?
That's as far as I got.
Your speaking took you there? You had speaking engagements? Is that why you were traveling the world?
No, actually, that was just due to being in the military. But when I did have my speaking engagements, I did travel Houston, Washington. I've been all over, and I've done a couple of speaking engagements here. I've done speaking engagements for Ivy Tech, their backpack program up in Lafayette. I've done speaking engagements for Barnes and Thornburg. I've done speaking engagements at Latitude 39 up here, off 82nd, I guess it is, before they close it down. I spoke to 40 foster youth there, a couple of churches around here. I've done just some work for just a few churches, keynote speaker at a couple of colleges and things like that.
Yeah. One of my favorite books says, it's better to give than receive. So I see you definitely taking that advice. So I commend you for that. And I understand you also wrote a few books. Can you tell us some of the books you've written?
I've actually authored 7 books. They're short books, and they are the first one that I wrote was written actually to work with the federal government, the Department of Health and Social Services up in Washington State, when I wanted to speak to their welfare demographic. I went in because they were like, "Man, we got these people on welfare. We can't get them off. We don't know what to do." And it was like I just said, "I can get them off." And they were like, "Well, do you have any curriculum?" I said, "Nope." They were like, "We need something
Mhm.
to present." And I
Right.
went home and sat in front of a computer, and I typed out my first short book entitled "I'm Broke and Tired. Now What?" Um,
Mm.
and I presented that book to those guys. They read it, and it's a book that's designed for you to read and work. So you'd read some things, and then you do some work. And it was written that way because, like I would tell people, it goes along with the motivational speaking. So I'm speaking to you, you're reading the book, and then you're writing about yourself, where you are. It's a transitional book.
Hmm.
And so from that, a lot of people, they got the message, and I went in and started speaking, and the books just worked. I just never got them. I never got them published.
Okay. Okay.
Even by the title, Ward, I know Ward said he really enjoyed like that. That was a good title for that book. But even by the
I do
title,
like
that
it.
lets you know that okay, they understand me. They get my situation. I am broke. I am tired.
Yeah. Now
So
what?
that alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These people back then, it was great because what was funny was when you speak, if you speak when you speak to the federal government, you got to be careful what you say because I mean we had the whole room was in tears,
Mm.
and so they get up and they're running out of the room, and the lady looks at me and she said, "What did you say to them?" And I'm like, "Oh my God!" And one lady stopped and said he didn't say anything wrong. What he said was just so deep, that the whole room was moved to tears. Everybody stood up and they were telling their stories, and they were they were pouring their heart out. And it got to a place where when the government didn't have any money, the people on TANF, on welfare, temporary assistance for needy families, these
Hmm.
people, the whole room said, we're willing to give up a portion of what you guys give to us for you to pay them to do what
Mm.
they do. That's how powerful it was. And I still have their testimonials still to today. And this was back in 2007, but I still have it. I mean, it
Mm.
was just impactful and it was beautiful just to see the changes. And when they did the tallying and they found out, because you had people that were making $200,000 plus to speak to this demographic, but it wasn't moving anybody. And
Right.
what we were able to do was produce a 95% success rate, and by their standard, 99% success rate, because 95% went and found jobs or went to school. You had the other like you had the other 5% that went into there was another segment where it was mental barriers. So what happened was you were able to flesh out the fact that these people have mental barriers to employment or school, and that was huge because they hadn't broke it down to get that kind of information. So it was
Hmm.
really big I mean, literally, I walked into a room at the Capitol in Washington State and sat down at a long table. And all of these people that were writing my checks, they were like, they knew my company and they knew my name. They were like, Robert Jones, we know you. You're you're
Hmm.
the you're the president of Mind Spirit. Man, you do great work. And I was sitting there going, that's great. I'm glad you know me and you're paying me a good amount of money, but I don't know anything about who you are or anything about you at all. But they knew me, and that was huge.
Nice.
I'm
Okay.
curious.
Go ahead.
I'm curious. Have you ever had someone seek, ever have they ever sought you out? Someone that you spoke because enough years have went by. I know you said you spoke to children in foster homes or any of these other situations that you're in where they sought you out to say thank you. This is what I've done with my life based on the encouragement and the motivation that you've given me.
That's a good question, and
Ever
I think
happened?
that no one has, and I think it's because I've been dormant. I believe that once I do exactly what it is that I was actually talking to Ward about, because I was actually like, I got to start a podcast. I was like, there is just so much that I have to do. I believe that once I open up that door, I believe that there will be people that will reach out and say that. Even in the small time I worked for the company I worked for where I met Ward, just from telling a little bit that I was telling, I had people that were like, man, I got to talk to you. I need to talk to you. Yeah.
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 Okay. I wanted to ask you too. Now, you've been through all this and depression, this almost getting killed, homelessness, joining the service and seeing the world. Did that affect you as far as your dating life? Is it hard to really get close to somebody with your background? Because sometimes, though, we as men, we have our walls up and, you want somebody to help you and be there to support you, but can you be vulnerable?
Good question. And I can say this. I think when I was younger, it affected me because I wanted somebody to love me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, I kind of looked for love in the wrong places. And the one woman I had met prior, I mean, when I was really, really young, she had a lot going on in her life. And I was a dad young, had no kids, but she had two. And I wound up taking her on and two kids. And then, she cheated on me, got pregnant by another man and lied and said it was mine. Yeah, trust me, before all of the court TV was going on, I was
You
already
lived
the guy. I was a candidate for it early. But it affected me when I was younger. And I think that when I was younger, I didn't know how to love because I didn't really know how to love me. I didn't understand who I was. I didn't understand, what I was really looking for. And so when you're young and you don't know what love looks like, you kind of just run rampant. And but once I got older, I realized more about myself. So like right now, I can just tell you, I know enough about myself to know that I'm receptive, and I feel honored that I've made it to this place where it's like I know enough about me to know how I love me, and I know that from that, I know how I want to be treated. I know what I feel like I deserve, and that's huge. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. So does that mean that you set in your ways, or are you flexible?
Ooh, no, You know what? I'm very flexible because I know I
Okay.
don't know everything. I don't know everything. The moment I think I know everything is the moment I cease to exist.
I like that. so so
Humility.
so in case our listener wonder, are you married now or single? Where you at?
No, I'm married.
Okay. So we'll leave that off the table then. So I'm glad you did that because I just seemed like I know after I went through my divorce, it was hard for me to just kind of trust, because of stuff you go through and especially all the other stuff you did. I'm glad you were able to find somebody you can have that fortitude with it to build. Which leads me to another question. Tiki and I often have this discussion. I want to ask you, what would you rather have? Somebody who wants you or somebody who needs you?
Oh, wow. That's a good question.
Choose wisely.
I think I would rather honestly, I think I would rather have somebody that wants me. I don't think you should need me. I don't really think you should need me. I think that I think we should complement each other. Because I shouldn't need
Absolutely.
you to be me. And you shouldn't need me to be you. You should be able to be who you are on your own. And what we do is we complement each other. We add value to one another. So, you don't need me to survive. You don't need me to be self-sufficient. You don't need me to do anything.
Ooh,
God, he equips you with
man.
enough.
I get it. I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you really helped us out there. So I'm gonna move on. We're about to pivot to my favorite part of the show called Getting to Know You. Again, for those of you who may just have tuned in, you're listening to What's Up Award podcast featuring Tiki the Talker. We're talking to Mr. RJ today, and we're going to ask him some questions. So these are just some rapid fire questions. Just relax and tell us the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
First question we have for you, sir. If you were sentenced to jail and you were given two choices, which one would you get? Choice A is you have to go to jail for 1 year and you get out. You go in January 1st, December 31st, they let you out. Or they give you a Rubik's Cube and send you to jail saying, when you solve this, you can come out.
And you give me a year. Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right. Do you think coffee is a drug?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you say that?
It's
Do you
addicting.
drink coffee?
I
Do you drink
don't.
it?
No.
Interesting. I don't either. Tiki?
Comments?
Okay. When do you think it's okay for kids to start drinking coffee, if at all?
When they grown.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I've never had coffee. I think sometimes it smells okay, but I'm good without it. Uh, Question number three. What's been your biggest failure and what did you learn from that experience?
Ooh, my biggest failure?
Mhm.
Um, I would say when I was playing basketball and I was told that I should have walked onto the Seattle Supersonics.
Tell us
Um,
about this.
I played basketball every day. I would go to the gym every
Mm.
single day. I had honed my craft and I had got really good at basketball, extremely good. And
Mhm.
I was playing ball at a local gym. That's how I got scouted to play in Italy by a guy who I played. We played against some guys who played for Italy, and we beat them.
Yeah.
And
Whoa.
so I'm playing ball one day, and I'm changing clothes in the locker room, and a guy looks at me, and he's just standing there. And I'm in the mirror about to leave, but he's just staring at me, and I'm kind of like, "Why are you staring at me?" And he goes, "I've been watching you." And I kind of looked at him and said, "Wait a minute now." He says, "No, not like that." He says, "But I've been watching you play ball." I said, "Well, thank you." He says, "Man, you're really good." I said, "I appreciate that. Thank you." He says, "No, I don't think you understand. You're really good." I said, I thank you." He said, "Listen to me carefully." He said, "When you come to the gym," he says, "teams will already be set." He said, "The moment you walk through the door, they will drop somebody and they will pick you up."
Hmm.
He said, "I've seen it happen."
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay." And he said, he says, "You ever thought about walking onto the Seattle Supersonics?" And I said, "No." And he looked at me, he says, "You should." He says, and I said, "No, there's no way." He said, "I'm telling you right now." He says, "If you walk into the Sonics," he said, "you will be undrafted your first year." He says, "But next year they will sign you. They will pick you up. Your game is that good." I never did it.
Mm. Wow. What held you back from doing
Didn't believe my game was that good.
it? Okay.
I didn't think I was that good. I knew I could play. I mean, I had won money playing ball. I mean, I had taken
Hmm.
paychecks from people playing ball.
Yep.
I would
Yep.
put together a squad and we could run. And but I just didn't believe enough in myself or my game to think I had that the wherewithal to be able to play with Sean Kemp and Gary Payton, all the people that were playing during this time. I'm like, these guys are fantastic. I can't play alongside these guys. So
Yeah.
I didn't believe I could.
Yeah. I know how intimidating that is because Sean Kemp was down the street, not too far from where I grew up in high school, just watching play because we were in school at the same time. And he was pretty amazing, man. So if you could run with them, I know you had game. I can
Yeah,
respect that.
yeah.
Yeah, just imagine you passed on Bone Thugs and Harmony, you passed on the Supersonics. Man, that's two things. Okay.
Yeah.
Any
All right.
regrets
Next.
though? You
No,
happy with what you're doing? I didn't think
I
you'd
have
say that.
none. I played ball overseas. I loved it, but I mean, I've got a couple. I've got championships under my belt: basketball, football, track trophies. Once my knee went out, I started bowling. I won bowling trophies, pool trophies, played professional darts for the state of Washington. You got dart trophies. Whatever I put my mind to, if I want to do it, my goal is if I can't be one of the best at it, or if not the best at it, I don't want to do it. I won't touch it.
I appreciate that.
No regrets.
Um, if you can go back and give you had 5 minutes to go back in time to speak to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Stay in the army. Stay in the army.
That's just
Don't
because you
don't
got
go
hurt
back to Cleveland.
because you got hurt in the Navy, so that's why you say stay in the Army.
I would tell myself to stay in the army because the job that you had at that, I would tell myself, slow down, understand that you've been through some things, but you don't have to run anymore. You're in a good place, and all you got to do is
Mm.
keep doing what you're doing. People are noticing. You're young, and people are valuing you. And even then, I had two doctors recommended me that wanted to recommend me for anesthesiologist school in the
Ooh,
army, and but because I
good,
didn't know what it was, just slow down.
good money.
I'd have told them,
Yeah.
slow down.
Mm. So did you ever go to college, graduate college, or anything, or?
I did. I actually went to I went to Clover Park Technical College where I took human services and majored in psychology and made the
Mhm.
president's list. So I went from being a kid that was homeless and getting bad grades to all A's and carrying 8 full-time classes.
Wow, that's a load right there. What does your morning routine look like now? What does RJ do to start a day out? Are you structured
Um,
still?
Say again.
Are you structured? I know in the service they have you
Oh
kind of
man,
like,
yeah, you don't forget that. I'm up at about 4 in the morning. I'll lay down and I'll talk to God. I thank him just for waking me up in the morning and allowing me to see another day.
mhm,
Um, I tell myself that I'm good, that I'm blessed, that I can do anything I want to do, anything I put my mind to. Wake up, I'll work out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. I have my workout routine, and then I'll get myself dressed. Depending on if the weather's nice, I'll throw on my motorcycle garbs and I'll jump on my Harley and I'll go for a ride, or
mhm.
uh, or just get up, you take care of your routine and then you hit the road and I'll go and do whatever it is I'm doing. But my morning routine is always the same. Wake up, thank God for another day, and know that I'm blessed beyond measure.
Okay. Do you have any martial arts skills or can you
I
hold your
do.
own?
I do
What you got?
actually. I started, I believe it or not, I learned how to box when I was 5. I started boxing at 5. So
Hmm.
by the time I was in my early 20s, I had a desire to take martial arts. So I started taking martial arts. I trained at a school called Jungye Mosul, and we learned all the different styles of martial arts. So karate, judo, taekwondo. We trained in all the different disciplines, and we learned 26 different weapons. And actually, I double tested. I went from a white belt to a yellow belt to a green belt in the same day.
Hmm.
Because I learned and I love working with nunchucks. I was really good at
Ooh.
nunchucks. So when I was a white belt, I was able to train people on using, they call them sajigans, and I was able to train people on how to use the nunchucks because I was really good at it and just fascinated with it. So yes, I have
Hmm.
martial arts skills, hand-to-hand combat, and boxing. Yeah.
Tiki, do you know what the nunchucks are?
Yes, I know what nunchucks are, boy.
Oh, okay. I just
I'm a,
asked because you RJ know if you know what I'm talking about RJ, you do something wrong with that. It can be
just hit
painful.
yourself in the head, knock your own self out.
And you can.
Yeah, I'm just saying I tried it once. Anyway, they're just not. I don't mess with them no more for various reasons. All right. My next question is: I want you to any sport you want to name. I want your Mount Rushmore of athletes. You can be all different sports, but I just want your top 4 of your Mount Rushmore of athletes. Who you got?
My top athletes.
Yep,
Oh wow.
top 4.
Well, this is interesting. That's an interesting question. I gotta give props for props is due, and a lot of people hating on my guy, man. But I love LeBron James
Oh man, me too.
for multiple
No
reasons.
doubt.
But LeBron is a great guy. So LeBron James definitely. Um, I like Michael Jordan. I do. LeBron, Michael. Let's see. I like Gary Payton.
Yep,
Um,
yep,
then I will go to baseball, and I'm going to go Kenny Lofton of
yeah.
the Cleveland Indians, Tomei, and Manny Ramirez.
Okay. All right. Nice list. Nice list. I know you were as a child out and about and moving a lot, but did you have a favorite TV show when you were a kid?
Yeah, I did. What did I used to watch all the time? G-Force.
I remember that one. You remember that one, Tiki? G-Force?
Sounds familiar, but I can't picture what it
Yeah,
is. Is it a cartoon or
it's a
what is it?
cartoon. Yeah, it's
Is
a
it? Okay.
cartoon. But if you want to talk about TV shows, I like the Sanford and Son and
Oh
the
yeah.
Jeffersons. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That was a good show too. Now here's your movie comparison. What was a better movie and why? Cooley High or Antoine Fisher?
Ooh. Antoine Fisher. Because it
What?
was Antoine Fisher to me because it was real. It was just this
Hmm.
guy. It was his life, man. It's what he had been through. I mean, I like Cooley High, but Antoine Fisher was just deep. It was deep.
Mhm.
And even when I tell my story, that's what a lot of people go, man, oh my
Very
God,
similar
you
to
sound like
yours.
Antoine Fisher's story. It's like, it just was deep
Mhm.
to me.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Last question I have in this round is which one's a better bike, Harley or BMW?
Oh, Harley Davidson. I own a 2018 Road Glide Special, man. I'm a Harley guy.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm a
okay.
Harley guy.
You got the nice one. What color is yours now?
Mine's all blacked out. It's
Let me
completely
see.
black.
Got it murdered out. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Now, is
blacked
that your
out.
first one?
No, my very first bike was a Honda CBR 600 F3.
Mm,
I learned how to ride on a
yeah.
pocket rocket.
Yeah. Then you switched
Mm.
over there. What made you decide to go to the Harley? Why everybody like those Harleys though?
You know what? I wasn't really a Harley guy. I mean, I rode my CBR, then I got my Suzuki SB 1000S, and this is back when I was actually the vice president for the Seattle Rough Riders. And then I moved here, became the president of the Rough Riders here in Indiana.
Hmm.
Um, rode with those guys for a little bit, rode with 317 for a little bit here, and I bought my Kawasaki Vulcan Vaquero 1700 with my first bagger bike, and I loved that bike. It was really fast. But when I moved to Texas, my cousin was like, "Okay, everybody here has a Harley."
Hmm.
And so he looked at me and said, "So," I said, "So that means I got to buy a
When in
Harley."
Rome.
And so I went and
Yeah.
bought a Harley. Yeah, I was in Texas a week, and I bought my Harley Road Glide, and I got my Harley, and we did the Iron Butt ride. We rode from Austin, Texas to Chicago, Illinois in less than 24
Mm-mm.
hours. It was just a gas to
Ain't
go
no
trip.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a butt ride. All right. Did you got a cushiony seat or something? Or
Oh, it's fantastic. Highway pegs, music. Yeah, it was a comfortable ride all the way up.
no rain or
Oh,
nothing?
no rain, not even a
Okay.
drop. Yep.
Hmm. Let me ask you this. If you travel, moved all these different places across the states, how does one move to another state with belongings? How does that work? Just get you a big U-Haul or a semi truck?
Yeah, you load it all up. You just load it up, man. Load it up in the truck. I take your motorcycle, put it on the truck, and leave. Just
I
go.
hate
Are you a
moving. That's why
minimalist?
I asked.
Are,
Yeah. Good
are you a
What?
question.
minimalist? Is it easy?
Yeah,
You just keep a few things? Okay.
yeah. Get rid of what you don't need, because
Mm-hmm.
you'll find that you got stuff in places that you go, man, I haven't even looked at this in a year. I don't even use this anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Throw that away. Yeah. So are you is Nobleville home now? Is that it for you? Or you moving somewhere else?
I don't know. It just depends on what happens. I mean, I
Mhm.
like it. I
Fair
like
enough.
the house. The house is beautiful. It's in a nice neighborhood. 5 years old. I can't complain. I mean, life's been good to me. You know where I came from. No joke. I was a project kid. I grew up rough, and to come home to my neighborhood every day,
Hmm.
it's a blessing to feel the way that I do. So right now, Noblesville is home, but if the wind's blowing, tells me to go somewhere else, I'm going to be like, okay, I'll just go
Mm.
somewhere else.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, RJ, and learning about your story and hear about the wonderful thing you showed us. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we touch on before we end, and I get my final thoughts? Is something we missed, or something you want to clear up?
Um, I don't. I just think this. I'll just say this in closing. For me personally, I want to let everybody know that's listening, man, that I love all of you guys. I don't know you, but I'll tell you this: that no matter what you've been through, no matter what you've been told, you're an inspiration, and it all begins and ends with you. And if you have children, make sure that no matter where you've been, no matter how rough your upbringing may have been, you pass on to your children a way to break the cycle so that they can continue to break the cycle and be an inspiration to other people, because without people, we're nothing.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Where can people find you on social media if someone wants to reach out, talk to you, or see some of your work or anywhere?
Good question. They can go to Ripple Effects Consultants LLC. That's on Instagram. They can find me there. They can also go to Ripple Effects Consultants LLC on Facebook. I don't really do a whole lot on the media, or they can even reach out to me on my cell phone. I mean, I don't care. they can call me or text me at 317-677-6580. That's my personal cell phone. Feel free to let me know if you have something that you want to talk about or a way that I can help. Before I let you go, I'm also I went to school I trained myself to be board certified with credit. In the line of work that I do
Yeah.
now, I work in automotive services, and I see a lot of people get denied. So I was like, you know what? Let me educate myself on credit. Let me become board certified so that I can help people to raise their credit score and not be stuck. So I'm
Mhm.
also board certified to do that too.
Man, so you can help with any kind of credit, get a house, car, whatever, just
Yeah,
all across the
whatever you
board.
have going on, I just listen to. I do consultations. Listen to what they're talking about. Let me know what it is that they're trying to accomplish, their time frame, and what they're trying to accomplish it in. Have them actually look at their credit score, tell me what it is that they see, and then I will actually go and do a pull and
Mhm.
get after I give them my fee and everything like that, and then I'll pull the credit and see what we need to dispute, and I'll help them to dispute it and see if we can help them to raise that credit score so that they can start to live the dream. Because a lot of people don't understand how important credit really is in this life. Credit
Man.
is extremely important.
Mhm. Well, Tiki, there you go. You might be able to get that 1972 Honda you've been looking at. So get your stuff together. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give my final thoughts here. I was reading a story recently. I enjoy black comedy in general, but especially black comedy. And I was reading a story about Red Fox. And his story is similar to RJ's. He came from not a great background. And, you know, Red Fox went on to have a TV show and all that stuff. And he used to be friends with Malcolm X and just did a lot of stealing and whatever he had to do to survive, you know. And he said he didn't never doubted himself, but he figured he was going to get out. But one thing he said that really stood out to me, he said, heroes are not born, they're cornered. I'm gonna let you guys marinate on that and see what it means to you. Keep in mind, everybody has a story to tell. We just want to know what's yours. We want to thank our guest RJ for joining us today in the lab today. We wish him well.
Thank you,
So until
RJ.
next time, peace.